Hey y'all, grown black folks talk, back out on the climb. Gorgeous day in San Francisco. An unusual day. Today we have a relatively brisk eastern breeze as opposed to the usual western breeze. So we'll find out how long this wind from the east is going to let us be great today. I had to come on today. It's been a while. I made those last 3 videos, and other than a singular community post, I've just let things marinate. But the first order of business for this video is thank you. Thank you to all the older subscribers that have been with me, but also for the additional 35 who have come on board since those videos were posted. Those 2 videos about black women not showing up for the protest in Louisville, and then black men not showing up either, have got nearly 600 views between them, which is a high number for this channel. And if you consider that I only have, at this point, 824 subscribers, that's a lot. That's a quarter and a little bit over a third of everybody who's on the channel having watched it. And of course, there may be subscribers from other channels watching, because I do see my numbers increasing. So first of all, first order of business, it would not be appropriate for me to end this week without saying thank you for those of you who have decided to come on board, and thank you to those who have stayed on board all this time. Now, I had to sit down with myself, walk several days, make and delete a lot of videos before I realized what was holding me up on coming back. There are a couple things. I was a professional journalist, and accidentally, I got something of a scoop. See, there are not that many people from the African American community on Hive or PD. We're there, but our representation is super low. Just like our representation in crypto things in general and in tech things in general is super low. So I'm sure that Colonel Jethro, who posted that video, had no idea about there being a very large audience of black men and women who are interested in such things, because we are out here having to discuss how, frankly, relationships between black men and women are breaking down. I'm sure that never even came to his mind that the information that he posted is germane. This is the first known photographed incident since 2020 where all the black people stayed home. And of course, all but 9 white people stayed home. And if, whatever the Asian population and Latino population is in Louisville, they all stayed home. So Amber Brown, who has a reason to keep fighting, I'm not taking anything away from her, call for a protest, and practically nothing happened. That much has changed. People in the time of Michael Brown, and especially George Floyd, people risked their lives twice over in the case of George Floyd because COVID was running around. And getting together in a crowd is an invitation to get yourself into a super spreader event. People did it anyway. 3 years later, nothing. In a city that turned itself inside out and upside down. But in the normal course of affairs, we weren't supposed to get that, except that I'm a professional journalist and I was on PD. And when I see that, I thought to myself, ooh. But see, the other thing about this is, the other reason that these arguments don't exist on Hive so much and PD so much, effectively zero, is because people in those spaces know this argument that we're having is irrelevant. See, internationally, people still have an understanding. People who are abandoning colonialism, people who are recovering from being victims understand it, that we are human beings, and all this fussing and fighting and going on based on race and gender is stupid. Let's get together and build something. Let's get together and create something. That is much more of a thing on Hive. And the thing about Hive that's a little bit different is it is a proof of brain blockchain, meaning you bring your best, and if the community likes it, we vote it up. And if we don't like it, we ignore you. And if we find that you're a danger, we vote you out of existence. Given long enough, your reputation score will look like nobody should be bothered with you. Does this sometimes go wrong? Yes, it does, occasionally. But the chain is censorship resistant, because even if it does go wrong, your stuff is still there. You can still post it to other front ends. You can still post it to other places, and you own your stuff. It's not being sold off by some big company to sell off information about you so that they can sell it and make money from it. No, it's not that situation. But a lot of the stuff that we think is so relevant and so important for us to always be talking about on Hive is irrelevant. It would be very difficult. The community is small, and it would be very, very difficult at this moment to build a grift machine there for that reason. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it wouldn't be worth the trouble because you actually have to put in work on Hive. We have community leaders that are even able to sniff out ChatGPT and all its additions. You better say that you're using a translation device. You better say what you're doing, because otherwise people will sniff you out, mute you, and basically you disappear. Not in the sense that you would be canceled, but the community just ignores you and you're gone. And even the community checks other members. Like someone came to the aid of someone who was a plagiarist a couple years ago, and they said, okay, y'all still downvoting? But we in our community have forgiven her, so y'all need to let this go. Community policing, if you will. And, community concern about justice. When someone on Hive or Peak D has trouble, there was a young African man who defended his sister from being raped. He got shot. We got to put our Hive together. Didn't have to go into our pockets. We took our Hive rewards and helped that man pay his medical bills. He's fine. He's recovering. And his sister is fine. All this arguing back and forth about you ain't nothing and you ain't nothing. It's irrelevant. And I realize because I live in these two worlds that whether people showed up in Louisville or not, did it really make any difference to how I live my life? And does it really make a difference unless you live there or in Memphis to how you live your life? Is the fact that black men and women didn't show up actually doing anything to stop you from getting what you need to get from your life? The answer is no. All these conversations about all this foolishness is going on. In the face of the massive opportunities in the world, they are irrelevant. See, the universe is abundant. And there is plenty of opportunity. And even if we were much poorer than we are, because many people from Hive are out here in countries much, much poorer, where their dollar, or what passes for their dollar, is worthless. They have found Hive, they have found its fellow travelers, Steam, and Blurt are getting their lives. Opportunity exists. Now, it may not always be that way. World War III can be a problem. But hey, as long as I have a voice, I can come out here and sing. And someone will be willing to barter hearing a song they love for something for me to get by that next day. As long as you have ability and skills that you are honing, there will be someone who will be able to barter that for you for things that you need. It just is what it is. The world is full of opportunity, and what I'm really saying to you is a lot of this foolishness what we are dealing with is irrelevant. I've heard more about pot roast this week. That whole conversation, irrelevant. Black men are who are online acting fool are going to keep acting fool. Black women online who are acting fool are going to keep on acting fool. Irrelevant. And see, here's what happens to you in the end. In the end, if you make yourself someone who is anti-human, human beings deselect you from opportunity, and you stay right there, getting more and more angry, more and more bitter, and more irrelevant. And then, of course, time passes and you die. And you don't leave a legacy worth being proud of. You don't leave a legacy that's more than dust. I build human beings. For those of you who are a little bit older, not like the Bionic Man. But I want you to succeed. I want you to come on here and say something to you that helps you. Now, sometimes we have to tackle complex issues. And we have to break them down. And sometimes we have to talk to real. And every now and again, I don't do it often on this channel, but if I do a drag, it will be a 4-syllable drag. It's very rare, though, because a lot of time we spend dragging is time we'd be better spending doing something else. On this channel, we have done all that we are going to do about who showed up in Louisville. The point's been made. We are not even going to address the foolishness of content creators and the Michigan State shooter and the commenters who are trying to make that everybody but a black man. As if that one black man says anything about 13 million other black men necessarily. However, the things that Wayman D. Wesley said about the culture of black men are more germane by his own admission. But even he, man, is cooking for his life. This cute little bird around here, I can hear it, but I can't see this bird. This man's out here cooking for a living at this point on his Instagram and going on with his life. And we should too. Because all our anger and upset that still remains, hey, he's not making decisions for black women in the Harris County District Attorney's Department anymore. He's not prosecuting cases. Let the man cook for his life and go on with yours. That's what you have to do. I'm not saying forgive him. I'm not saying any of that. But I'm saying there are more opportunities and more important things for us to do than to get bogged down about dealing with people who are irrelevant to us while we're irrelevant to them. That was the saddest thing about the whole Michigan State shooter thing. Everybody's in the comments trying to make that shooter what they want him to be and exercise irrelevancy. And what I want us to do in 2023 as the spring approaches, winter is leaving, spring is coming. Of course, now in San Francisco, it looks like it's leaving a lot faster, but nah, this east wind is cold because the northeast wind. But spring is coming. Spring is coming. So I want us to spend less time worrying about things that are not actually relevant to our lives. And I want us to learn how to live powerfully where we are and do the things that we can do where we are. It does us no good to be constantly worried about people that don't exist when we shut off our screen. Literally. No, and I don't make an exception to myself. Hold on a second. Because look, I can even disappear from you. You just turn off your phone, turn off your computer. Unless I have something to say that helps you live your life, I'm irrelevant. Unless I have power enough to say something to destroy your life, I'm irrelevant. Now, I appreciate the 824 of you that have decided that I am relevant to your life, but at any time when you decide that is not the case, I am okay with you unsubscribing. Because you need to listen to people. There are people I used to listen to a year ago about different things, and I don't listen to them anymore. Their content has changed, or I have grown, and I'm past that stage of my development. But thanks for the memories. Sometimes I'll stay subscribed, and sometimes, if they've changed enough, I won't. There are people I used to listen to 5 years ago, and I do come through from time to time. But I've gone past that stage. It's okay to let folks go when they no longer have anything to say to you that helps you. You don't owe loyalty to anybody on the other end of the computer in general. And as we've talked about before, you got to learn how to deal, and I'll put this in the description, but you got to learn how to not operate codependent. You got to learn how to not look for everybody else. It's like when I hear conversations about men about, I want a woman who's going to impress my girls, and that's my primary thing. Sir, if you do not know who you are and know what you want for you, not to be impressing whoever may happen to be in your friend group today. But a lot of us are like this. We have a whole lot of, I got a man, trying to impress other women that we're better than them. There was a lot of that on the internet this week. Everybody needs to learn how to live as a human being, as even a sovereign human being. This is going to be part of our intercessory prayer Bible study. Yes, y'all, I remember, Tiff. I do. I'm working on it. We've all heard it said in Sunday school and in church that Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, it means he's over all the rulers of the world. But if you go down in your Bible far enough, you find out that Jesus has called the Christian to be kings and priests unto his God. So he's King of Kings and Lord of Lords. All Christians are part of a royal priesthood. That makes me a woman king. And of course, in English, we gentrify that to queen in his service. And what does a priest do? A priest goes between the people and God. That is the role of an intercessor. Again, that's coming in our intercessory prayer Bible study. It's coming. But we need to talk about our great high priest and ultimate intercessor, because it's a very deep lesson. But the point I'm trying to make to you is, as a queen, I do not have time, given the importance of my duties, to be worried about things that are irrelevant. I have a mission and a purpose of my own in the King who I serve under the King of Kings and Lord of Lords authority. So, a lot of you it would behoove you, whatever it is you believe, to find out what in the world are you meant to do without reference to everybody around. It's like people have a broken mirror image of themselves, and the friends that they have are the shards. Everybody's looking down at these broken pieces to find out who they are, and getting a little bit of a reflection here and trying to build an image. A lot of our problems as black men and women come from exactly that kind of understanding. And we know why the image of black people in America is broken. It's Black History Month. Do I need to explain it? No. We know about the history of slavery. We know about the history of dehumanization that has been practiced from then to now. We know about that. I am among the first generation of people who can come up online and be on a screen and have access to as many screens as anybody else without having to go through 1,000 gatekeepers. And even if you study black people on Twitter and YouTube and what they say, what happens to you when you really start talking hard stuff? Even now, we don't have the kind of access because the people that control the media outlets are definitely not us. And they will not allow their image to be pulled down too much. That is what it is. So we know where the brokenness comes from. We don't want to talk about the brokenness that we do to ourselves, which brings us back to all these silly arguments that supposedly grown men and women, but really codependent, broken children in adult bodies are doing, because their minds and their souls and their spirits they are operating at the age at which they were broken. And that's what's going on. I would say this again. Kevin Samuels, really a sad story. He was on track to be an engineer. Cancer came early. And that was unfortunate for him. And before he decided to jump on the grift, he was tall man. Some would consider him good looking. And he decided that he was going to become a style expert. But he also lived hypergamously, trying to marry up to women with more money than him, using those style tips. It didn't work. So then he decided to join the grift of angry men. But if you go back to, had there been resources available for him when he was 20 to be able to go back to school and be the engineer he was meant to be, maybe that story comes out differently. And if you study the stories of a lot of people who ended in disgrace, who ended leaving a legacy of foolishness, you can go back on the story of Adolf Hitler. You can go back on the story of Napoleon Bonaparte or Joseph Stalin. And if someone had intervened at a particular time, maybe things could have been different. That's not what happened. Now, can we change history for anyone? No. This channel and myself are people who are trying to intervene to make sure that fewer people end up lost, bitter, and damaging. And that is all we are doing here. That is the mission. We are not going to focus on forwarding people's anti-human propaganda, not even to the point of always having to break it down. Because like I said, the rest of the world is moving on. The rest of the world is already doing some other things. The rest of the world is already looking at the new financial system that's coming, and that we are not in a position to stop, so it best behoove us to learn about it. That reminds me, I gotta do my next crypto content. It's always a little bit more complicated to do that, but it's coming. So this video is sort of a roundup on why there's been a bit of a pause. Thank you to my new subscribers, and how we're not going to spend time on things and people who are behaving in an irrelevant fashion. Human beings are always relevant. They're human. We're human. But if you are behaving in an irrelevant fashion and you have irrelevant content, until it becomes a problem that we need to address, that would be effectively ignored. I see some of y'all hitting the dislikes over here, and I know what's going on. But, folks are being effectively ignored because, again, no relevancy. And I would advise you, my listeners, and even include me, on the day that I'm no longer relevant to help you with your life, it is okay for you to move on. And I would encourage you to have that attitude out here in these internet streets. Put your time into growth. Before doing this video, I sat here and I journaled. Now, there was a gentleman, I'll let you guess who it was, and what ethnicity and what background, had all his doors open, although I'm going to tell you 50% of you are going to be wrong because this has happened twice in the last 6 months. All his doors open and was just dancing on the street and making it impossible for me to do a YouTube video. Today, it was a black man. The previous time was a white man. It can happen at any time. But instead of being upset about it, I took out my journal. Thanks, shout out. If y'all don't have True Mystique's prayer journal, y'all need to get up on that. Go on over to her channel and get you the link for this prayer. In fact, you know what? I'll put it in the description. I sat here, worked in my journal, asked the Lord for some things, and thanked him for some other things that I asked him for that he had done. Recorded, thank you for helping me find my new crypto bags for the year to get started on that, because I have some older bags, but I also putting up some newer bags, baby bags, because, that's all I can do right now. But hey, we do what we can. Thanks even for that. Worked on some things I have to put forward, getting some ideas together. While I was away, I was also tracking down a syndication deal. I got one done. I got another one to go. So, moving forward, because I don't have time for the foolishness. There's a lot of stuff going on I could have commented on. There's a lot of stuff going on that you can comment on. But what can you do that's going to help you tap into the abundance of this universe you live in? What's going to help you minister powerfully to the people in your locale that you're responsible for? May I suggest you put more time and attention on that in 2023? And enjoy the spring and be ready so that things are ready to bud out. Take a rest in the winter from the foolishness and get ready to join the budding out and the running of the sap in the spring. And get ready to bring forth some new things in your summer and mature in your autumn. And rest in the winter from the foolishness. And for those of you in the southern hemisphere, y'all about to get done for the year, finish the summer, get stuff done in the autumn, and rest for the winter. So if you're the equator, none of it matters. Just get your stuff done, because you got all the time and seasons in the world. As I keep saying on the video, the community post, y'all sitting up here listening to people who have a fictional idea. They expect them winter walkers to come out of Game of Thrones. Ain't nobody studying any of that. Get your stuff done in all seasons and find out what the season is for you. All right. Thank you for listening. Y'all have a good day now. Goodbye.